This is R2D Tech, and this week we're back with another video, this time on the new iPad OS update. So this video will be just me because of the self-quarantine, of course, but Saren will be releasing a video on the MacBook Air sometime next week. On a lighter note, the new trackpad and mouse support on the new iPad OS beta is absolutely insane. With the initial introduction of mouse support on iPad OS, the whole thing was a bit of a fluke. Yes, you could connect a mouse to the iPad, but it didn't actually work that well. I mean, in fact, it was basically just a substitute for using your finger. There were no animations. Apple had this hidden deep in the accessibilities menu, and it wasn't that easy to use. To be honest, using your finger or the Apple Pencil was a much easier option. But now with the new iPad Pro being released and the new Apple Magic Keyboard, which has a trackpad, Apple have put so much more thought into the new mouse and trackpad support. Let me just make one thing clear, the new Magic Keyboard with trackpad is also compatible with the 2018 iPad Pro. So if you have that one, then don't worry, you can still use this. Also, the software update is also available on the 2018 iPad Pro, so you'll be able to get all of the new software implementations as well. To start with, how do you turn it on? If you have the new iPad OS beta, just go into settings, go into touch accessibility, and you should be able to turn it on from there. One thing that you do want to make sure you have toggled on is actually the animations, because that's actually what makes this update so cool. With the initial update, there was no interaction with the mouse whatsoever. It was literally just like having your finger, but instead using a mouse. Now when you connect your mouse or trackpad to the iPad, when you hover over something, there'll be animations like the icons will enlarge, or they might get darker, or some text might appear, or the mouse might change shape on the screen. All of this just makes it seem like Apple are finally giving in to letting you use a mouse with your iPad. What they're really going for is the iPad computer merger. They always used to stick to the fact that you shouldn't have a touchscreen laptop because it wasn't ergonomic. But now they seem to be changing that mindset with the new Apple Magic Keyboard, which has a trackpad, and the new software implementations with mouse support. I think that's definitely the right direction. We've seen it with Microsoft with their Surface lineup. I think those Surface lineups are great actually. And I'd love to see where Apple take this in the future. The advantage of using an Apple trackpad with iPad OS is that you can use gestures to, go into the app view or bring up the home menu or swipe right and stuff, but that's not exactly necessary. If you have a customizable mouse, you can also go into the settings and choose different functions for the different keys on your mouse or switches on your mouse. So you can achieve a very similar outcome just with a very good mouse, like a Logitech, for example. In general, this new software update just makes everything seem so much more interactive when you're using a mouse. The fact that the icons enlarge, the fact that the mouse changes shape, you can adjust the size and opacity of the actual mouse cursor, all of that makes it seem so much more intuitive to use. And I can definitely see how you would now use the iPad as a laptop, because before I didn't really see this. Now it is important to mention that the new Magic Keyboard will be priced around $300, which is pretty insane. Now, if you do have another keyboard like the original Apple Magic Keyboard, or for example the Logitech keyboard, which was also really good, then you can still use this. All you have to do is connect your Bluetooth mouse to the iPad as well, and you can achieve a very similar experience with the combination of these two. $300 is a pretty ridiculous price, so hopefully with everything going on at the moment and the fact that a student can't really afford to spend $300 on a keyboard, they'll reconsider this and bring it down a bit. Speaking about the new Magic Keyboard, the keys will have more travel. The actual keyboard has a hinge mechanism which allows you to almost levitate the iPad so you can adjust its angle to any angle you want. I mean, if you've seen the Surface Studio before, it's a similar mechanism to that, which is absolutely amazing. The keys are in fact backlit, which is something that we saw on the Logitech keyboard, and that's also quite a cool feature, especially if you're typing at night. And finally, of course, this keyboard has that trackpad on the bottom, which really hammers home the point that Apple is trying to make. Your iPad can now be your computer. and with the combination of the Apple Pencil, a keyboard, a mouse, or the trackpad, this is really the ultimate working setup, as long as you don't need any specific software. Even in terms of software, Photoshop have released their own app on iPad OS. Other companies will follow. I've heard that Fusion, which is a CAD modeling software, are also starting to develop their own iPad app where you'll be able to edit models. At the moment, you can only view models, but hopefully in the future this will change. I really like where Apple's going with this. I use my iPad all the time at school for note taking. It's absolutely amazing, and having that extra functionality of a trackpad or mouse would just make it something which I definitely could see replacing my MacBook Pro in the future. Not to mention the fact that the iPad is so much faster than my current MacBook Pro. Everything seems so fluid, so fast, so responsive. The Pencil is an amazing implementation, and being able to switch between that computer style setup and the more interactive hands-on setup with the Pencil is something which I think would be really useful for creators and for anybody who works really. We will be releasing another separate video on the new iPads themselves, so stay tuned for that. But other than that, that's it from us this week. If you liked the video, please leave a thumbs up, and if you really liked it, you might want to consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell.